Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 136 with Tyler Benson. He is the drummer of Sue's Garage, and I've interviewed 3 out of the 4 members of that band, so I definitely support their music. I support what they're doing. They have just a lot of great stuff coming out and a lot of great stuff already out. And what's today, the 31st? So this episode will already be out by the time they have their show on Sunday. But when they have shows, please check out their Instagram page. They post all their stuff when they do like concerts and shows. They have something coming up this summer. So go back to that episode if you want to skip to the end to listen to when they talk about that in July. There's a show coming up. But please support them. I love those dudes. You can listen to that episode at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you'd like to watch your podcast, you can go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll. Should pop up right for you. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection. If you got my number, you could text me or Snapchat me, however you want to get in contact, and I will schedule it out. I've been scheduling out like months in advance at this point just to try to keep things nice and orderly for myself. So just be patient with me and I'll try to get you onto the podcast. That brings me to today, episode 137, bringing back a guest from episode 22. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
Ankit Kotwal.
What's up?
Welcome to the podcast again.
It's been 3 years. It's been a minute, like you said. Yeah, man, so much has changed. I mean, I think I had a mask on the last time we did the podcast.
It was the day that it released, at least, was July 8th, 2020. So we probably recorded it shortly after 4th of July. I don't know if it was like a Thursday or something, but I think it was, I forget what it was, but
I think it was probably Friday.
Yeah, it was. I know we had a completely different setup. Like, dude, things have changed dramatically.
We were talking about that. You had the glass barrier. You had the long table. I had Isaac with me. You know, Isaac couldn't be here today, but I had Isaac with me. It was a completely different setup, and I mean, it's wild. Now I'm 25. Like, I think I was like you were like 24, 25 back then. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy how much time has gone by, and like it's. To go from episode 22 to literally episode 137. Like I mean, it's just the amount of stuff that has happened since then. Like even like I could flash back to like doing that episode and being in the room and like you were mentioning you had to like trade the mic back and forth because I only had 2 microphones
we had
and
to fight over the mic. Like,
it's just so crazy to like think about and like how like literally like mid COVID to now. It's just crazy. But since you're like, it's like a return episode, I like to kind of let people catch everyone up on the audience of like what you've been up to because it's been a while. So I'll let you kind of do that and like take as much time and go into as much detail as you want to go into.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been, I'm still a software engineer. I'm not in Chicago because I know we talked about that on the last time, right? I had just gotten back from Chicago. The only reason I was back is because of the pandemic. And I was like, well, I can't really do anything in Chicago because everything's closed. All the bars were closed. Like everything was just shut down. So I came home and it's 3 years later and I'm still here. It's kind of funny how things work out that way. So I'm still doing the same job or similar job at a different company. And I guess the main thing that's new is, so when we last kind of talked back in 2020, I had just started like doing tutoring as like a side hustle during the pandemic. But now I work for a company that they like develop curriculum. It's like an after school enrichment program for math. So they have a curriculum that I have to follow. So I teach like groups of like maybe 4 to 6 kids at a time between kindergarten through 5th grade. And I mean, I love it. It's so fun because you get to like actually make a difference. And like, because at first when I was doing the tutoring thing, it was like help this person with their homework or like actually do their homework in a lot of cases. When I was tutoring for, it was some county in California, San Bernardino or something like that. Like some random county that I found, and it was like, yeah, just like do our homework. And I was like, this kid's gonna get nothing from it. He's gonna pass he's gonna get through high school, and then that's it. Like I'm not gonna really make a difference. Whereas like younger kids, when you're teaching, like you can actually tell like you're actually making some kind of progress in their lives, and so that's been kind of the sweet spot for me. So yeah, I've been doing that for the last 2 years now, 2 years running, and it's been a blast. And then it's been like kind of a good balance in between. So I do software engineering, but it's more of like a hybrid of software engineering consulting. So it's kind of funny because you kind of have to babysit your clients in the same way that you babysit the students that you teach. So it's like there's a lot of parallels, actually, a lot of hand holding, and it's just been a really cool experience, kind of marrying those two together. So yeah, and then I've been I've been around Seekonk, just kind of vibing, playing flag football with
Flag
Jared,
football.
getting hurt.
Yeah, same.
And, yeah.
Today was actually my last PT day since I
Oh,
pulled my
yeah?
hammy. So like I've been doing did sprints earlier this week, like 75%. Like so I'm gradually building back up. I'd say it was like the last scheduled PT
There
one.
you go.
And I started that like I did it. I'm like almost immediately after I pulled my hamstring because
Yeah.
I knew I'm someone that like I will push things
Yep.
too far. So I was like, and I'd gone to this PT place before, so I was like, I'm just gonna go back again. And like, it was literally like a year later. Because I think about March, April last year, I had knee tendonitis
Oof,
because I
that's the
would just
worst.
start running and not stretch, and like
Yeah.
the pounding on the knee
Yeah.
was like repeated. So like it caused inflammation, and like literally like sitting down would be painful. Driving was painful. Like
Yeah.
it was like awful. And they showed me like these such basic exercises, and it just worked. And I was like, man, I'm so dumb. Like it's just like doing the basic shit, especially as you get older, is so important. And I just didn't even like
I
think
never
about
realized
that.
how important stretching was until I kept getting hurt. Like maybe 2 years ago, I was like I gotta change something. I'm always like I play basketball. The next day I'd be so sore. Like at Agawam, I'd be like, why am I so sore? And it's because I didn't stretch.
Were
And
you
I was
ever
like,
sore after football? Like the first time you came,
no, not really.
dude.
Not really.
Every time the first time we play again, like I'm always like can't walk for like 3 days. Like
Really?
yeah, like
Well,
I
not
think it's the fast twitch. Like at least you're playing
yeah.
basketball, so maybe that's why you
I
got
think it's the
some of those.
concrete. I think it's like the knees on the concrete. Because like when you're playing football, like it's like the soft grass landing.
I'm talking about like not even. I'm talking more like the like soreness after playing the football. Like I think it's more like because like the fast twitch muscles aren't being
Yeah.
used. Like working out, I'm not using fast twitch
Yeah.
muscles. I'm just like doing like certain muscle groups. Like
Yeah.
football, like you're cutting, you're backpedaling,
Yeah.
you're doing all this
Yeah, I can
movement.
see that.
In basketball, you're doing a lot of that, and it's like fast paced too.
Yeah.
Like football is more of a slower pace, so you
See
probably
that.
were more like conditioned at least
I
because
think the first day that I played, I didn't really take it that seriously, and then I was like the competitive side of me was like, I'm not getting any targets, like I got to keep going. And then I think you said it, you were like, dang, like you really came out to play today. And then the next week I got hurt because I was trying to break up a pass, knee straight goes like right into my thigh. I was down on the ground for like a minute. I was like, oh, I can't do anything right now. I was on crutches for like 3 days. I couldn't
nah,
even,
really,
like I couldn't walk at home.
dude.
So I'm good now. I think that's been like a month and a half, but
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
man,
but
that's
like
good.
it shut down everything because I play basketball, I play volleyball, a little bit of soccer. I was like, I can't do anything now. Like this sucks,
It was more of like just like a bruised muscle, like
Yeah,
or,
I think
okay.
it was just yeah, I don't know what it was, but it was just like black, like my whole thigh was just black and blue, and I was like, oh
Damn.
man, like
It looked bad on film when I went back to it. Because I
you
remember
gotta show me that.
I deleted them. Don't worry, I deleted them. No. Like anytime someone gets hurt, like I watch it, I'm like, I gotta delete this. Like it's just so bad. But I'm like,
Yeah.
because like it happened and like no one noticed at first because like it was just like a normal football play and then you like
Then I
dropped
was
immediately
just like
and like
slamming the Martin
Yeah.
School ground.
dude, oh. I feel you though, because like I didn't realize how like bad a hamstring injury
Yeah.
was gonna be. Like, because like you read it, it says like 4 to 8 weeks. I'm like, 4 weeks is a month. I could do that. But my dumbass decided after about like 3 weeks, it was Super Bowl weekend, and I was probably like realistically looking back, probably like 65% like ready to go. And classic, couple people didn't show up, and like I was just gonna play quarterback, and then
And then you
kind of had to play some defense.
Yep.
and I started like the competitive side starts
Yep.
going a little bit, and
You
like
should start flowing.
start doing a little bit, did a little jump, like, and like I knew I wasn't like 100%. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this,
Yeah.
and I started chasing the quarterback,
Yeah.
and just I went a little too quick, and I felt the slightest pop. I was like, it
Yep.
didn't hurt like the first time, but I was like,
you knew.
I was
But you
like,
knew.
because it didn't hurt right away, but I was like, I pulled it. Like, and like the adrenaline was going still. I was like, I just
Yep.
pulled that. And then it slowly started kicking in. I was like, what the fuck? And I lied to my physical therapist. I hope she never sees this, but I said I was running. I was playing
Shout
football.
out Jared's PT.
I was totally playing football, and like I knew what I was doing, and like I knew it was not a good idea because she didn't even clear me to run yet. So like I knew it was not a good idea. But
Yeah.
I just told her that I went and started running. So I started jogging before that. So like I knew I could like jog.
Yep.
But I knew I couldn't do it. I can't play football, and I just
Yeah.
pushed in.
No, I mean the thing is, before I got hurt, like I had hurt my thigh playing basketball. Like it was not 100%, and then that shit happened, and I was like, ah, like this is literally like my body telling me like don't play when you're hurt.
We were forcing it too because like we got great weather this winter for
We
like
did.
for
We got a
like,
bunch of 50-degree like days in like February.
yeah,
you
and
know?
that's what helped us keep playing. But usually that's when we shut everything down for like the football guys and stuff. So like, and then what I got hurt was like we just had a really cold day, and like I didn't hydrate, and like I switched between receiver and running back, receiver and quarterback, going from standing still to like full sprint, and that's where I pulled on like a fourth down late in the game, like pushing off, running full speed, pop, drop, because I'm not stretching, not drinking water.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I mean, none of us are going pro anytime soon, but it's so fun to just like get back out there and like run routes and stuff. Like, it's the best feeling ever. It's like, oh, Sunday mornings, like you wake up, you might have gone out like last night, but whatever. Like you
That's part of the thing.
You
That's part of the
yourself
thing.
back up, and then you just have a good time. Like it's
and you were balling though. You did, because like the first time you came, you didn't have the cleats, and like you just like yeah, but like you just like showed up, or like I'm just here to just play a little bit, and then like you said, didn't get the targets that you wanted, and like that next time, like fucking
I'm catching everything,
like everything.
Way.
I was like, oh shit!
Man. Shout out Taylor Agnew. He threw me a bullet on a cross, and then he looks at me. He's like, "How'd you catch that?" I was like, "I don't know,
dude." He was like targeting you like crazy, and Taylor doesn't just target anybody either. Like Taylor barely looks at anyone else
like,
but his guys.
I was like, my hands were just like bruised after I caught it because I had to because it was a walk-in touchdown, but. Yeah, there's something about just like playing football on like a Sunday morning. I don't know what it is. I that's why I love the fact that like you organize that, because it's like you get to like relive a part of your childhood in a way.
Yeah.
Because that was like my childhood. We play me, Isaac, Dom Lopo, Kyle. Like we had a whole like neighborhood of kids just like our age, and we just like play like two-hand touch, sometimes tackle football, but like football in the yard. It was just the most simple times. You don't have to worry about anything. Didn't have to worry about school. Didn't have to worry about work. It was just, just like pure joy. So.
Yeah, and I try, and like I think about that when like I even go back on like my Facebook memories, and I have ones from like 8th grade into like early high school. Like I would try to get the guys on Saturday to go to the high school and play football, and like I'm like, bro, I've been doing this for a while, like trying to like wrangle all the fucking guys. I'm like, all right, let's go play football. And I used to have a whole Facebook group of just like I had like 50, 60 guys in there. I'm just like, anyone want to play football today? And would try to get anyone that I could to play. And then we started doing it indoor, and like since we've been doing it indoor, that's when we started getting really into the flag stuff. I've done a couple leagues, and then we got like a solid core group of guys to kind of do it. It's been changing last couple of years, guys getting older, moving away and stuff. But I invested in flags, and I was like, got some cones, and we just picked the spot, and we just kept doing it every Sunday. And like, it's just fun, like you said, to like get out with the guys, like relive that piece of your childhood, and especially in football. Like basketball is like pretty easy to get out there and just go get runs and stuff again. Like you could, like for basketball, you can go and shoot by yourself if you really want to. Football, you need at least one other person to do it, and to even get a game, it's just so hard to get guys to commit to like football, because it's just that physical aspect is always going to be there regardless whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
Like basketball, like, yeah, there's going to be guys in the paint blocking, hacking away and doing shit like that. That's going to be natural because of the competitive nature of sports. But there's just something with football that's like driven into anyone that has played, that you want to be that physical aspect. You want to get your hands on them. You want to like really get after it, but it's not the safest thing, especially as we get older.
No, it's not. And I found that basketball it's fun, but it's a different type of fun. It's very in your face, very like macho aggressive vibes. Like people aren't, having fun and stuff. It's like I want to cross you over and hit threes in your face kind of like vibes. Whereas like when we play flag football, it's usually pickup. It's like guys know each other. I mean, yeah, we want to burn each other on like a wheel route or something like that, but like, we're not trying to like embarrass each other or something. So
we just don't want people to get hurt. Like that's
yeah,
that's
and
the goal.
the main thing, like unlike us, but
that's just an age thing, I think.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
It's just getting to that point.
That's what my body's telling me.
I'm still gonna try to like push it as long as like we can, and like that's part of the reason like I work out and stuff like that is like I want to do these things. Like this is like a stress reliever. Like football was always a stress reliever for myself, and for me, I just wasn't very good at basketball. Like it wasn't my sport, and
No, I mean, you were a pretty good point. We'd play pickup. You'd get the ball where it needed to be.
I just like pass.
Yeah.
It was like I always looked at it as like play like Rondo.
Yeah.
Like can't really shoot that well. Like can make one here or there.
I think you knew your skills better than anyone else did, and so
catered to them. And like I knew I'm for some reason a lefty shooter and dribbler.
Really?
Yeah, I play everything right-handed though. Everything else in my life is right-handed, but basketball
shoot
lefty.
Left,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I might not
like,
pay attention.
If I do a right-handed layup, I look stupid. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like it's awkward. Like I don't even know like left.
I dribble with my left. That's the weird part, but I shoot with my right.
I've tried to get more comfortable with my right. I don't know. One day I picked up a basketball in middle school and like
you were just like, I'm gonna be a lefty.
Yeah, I just shot and it just like
you
that's
saw Ginobili. Too many videos of Ginobili.
Maybe I don't even know. It just like it just felt right and like I still can't really get a good spin on the ball, but like it gets up and
it gets there. Yeah.
I'm just more like I play like a football player. Yeah. Like if you watch me play basketball, I play like a football player.
No, you definitely do. You like barrel into people.
Oh yeah, it's like basketball is more of a height-driven sport and skill-driven for sure. If you don't got the skill, like, and I noticed that, like, I got better because I played more. Yeah. But man, I probably haven't shot a basketball since probably pre-COVID. Like,
gotta get back out there.
I gotta, yeah.
One's in probably a month or two.
It's just tough with the Agawam. It's just like I don't know if it's changed.
You like the
probably
crowd there?
I don't like the crowd.
No.
I used to because I used to know the people, but like it's probably has changed and a little bit younger now. I'd assume at least. So it's usually the people just from East Providence High School that walk whoever leaves there.
I always see the same people.
Really?
It's like the people that are older than me.
I mean, maybe it's just
there's a bit of like the younger crowd, but yeah.
I always hated too because like I'm not like I wasn't very good, so like it was like hard to get picked for teams too. And it's like because like I know I'm like
well, you just got to show up with like guys like
yeah.
I mean, who would show up? It was like Taylor, Vincente, like the be there like Isaac, like they would just be guys that we knew, and so we'd like
that's when I would play more too. Yeah. It's with people I know, but it's like
just got to do that.
It was early on, like when I was just going like because I used to work at that Stop and Shop up the street, so like I used to know people, and like I would go with them, and like I was in a good rhythm, like I want to say before I moved away, like to Georgia and to Texas and Georgia. I was balling, dude. I was like in a rhythm, like my shot was getting better, and like I was like in great shape, and like fell off because I just moved away and like didn't have the crowd. And I played pickup in Texas like once, and I'm like, it ain't the same. Like I had the shot still because my apartment complex had a gym, so like
that's clutch.
I would literally work out and just put up shots. Like I would literally sometimes I didn't hang out with people like that in Texas, and I didn't like to go and drink at that point. So it'd literally be like 10 o'clock on like a Saturday night, and I would just go put up shots, like thinking I'm like fucking like Kobe in the gym, like
that mama mentality.
Mama mentality, shooting for nobody, just by myself, balling. And I don't know, it's just sports add like this piece back to our lives that's like so like important.
Sports is like the ultimate uniter. I think I probably said that on the last podcast if you run it back. Like for me, like growing up around people that were, had different cultural backgrounds and everything, like it was the ultimate uniter. Like you can talk about sports and it bridges everything together. It's like almost like a glue that kind of binds us in a way. And it's like, it's talking sports, it's playing sports. It's just the best way. Cause like politics, we're not gonna talk about politics on here, but like politics divides us. Sports brings us together. And so, like for me as a kid, like playing basketball and football and all the sports that my dad put me into it was like a blessing, because it was like, I don't know how I would have been, like became the person that I am today. And also like met the people that I know today without that, so that's why I've tried to like keep that in my life in a way. And yeah, speaking of, I was thinking of this as you were talking about, speaking of things that like help clear your mind, I got into swimming like a month and a half ago.
Swimming, huh?
Yeah. And I never would have thought about it because I learned how to swim when I was like super young, and then I hated it because like I wasn't the best at like all the strokes and everything, and I would get in my head. So back at Seekonk High, they had this thing where, well, I mean, I wasn't in high school, but at the high school pool, um, they had this thing like where they had classes and stuff, and you try
Yeah,
to
I
like
did it too.
level. Oh, you did
Yeah,
that too?
yeah.
Yeah.
Started like a little kid, you like work your way up and stuff.
And I
basically.
did well in the beginning, and then I couldn't get to those like higher up levels, and I just got so mad because like I hate failing at things, and then my mom and dad would be there, and I would like be like, oh, like are they embarrassed of me? And then I thought about it today, and I was like, both of them don't know how to swim. So like the bar, like the minimum was so fucking like low. I can't swear in here, but
You can swear on here.
I can
actually.
swear in here.
Yeah.
The bar was like so low. It was literally just for me to be able to, like me and my sister to be able to swim, you know? And I like look back at it, I was, I should have just had more fun with it because I was so worried about like passing the, you know, the test or whatever at the end. So I got a Health Tracks membership maybe like 2 months ago, and I just go find an hour to swim now. And it's I just dive in, and anything that's on my mind, anything that's like today, I was thinking about so here's the thing with me. I'm very comfortable speaking, but I'll still get anxious like a little bit. I went in the pool, gone. You know, like I was thinking about like a couple deadlines I had to like finish for work today, gone. Got that done after the pool. Like, why didn't I just do this before? Like something about just like diving into the water and just not thinking about anything, just it's just so soothing for me. I don't know why.
That's like running for me.
Is it?
Like if I go,
I hate running.
I just
I hate it.
it's
with a
always
passion.
been something that like I just kind of go to that takes me away from whatever problems I'm going through because like yeah, I can think about them, but I'm also gonna be thinking about trying to catch my fucking breath while I'm running. So it's like it's just focusing on the breath in and out, and like I can like process my thoughts a little bit clearer because like I can only focus on so much while also focusing on running.
Yep.
And it was always just something. If I was going through something in my life and having like a tough time mentally, like I used to, my big thing was always hit the high school track and run around that.
Yep.
And then it turned into like, for me, running from my house to Gamino Pond and running around in the woods.
You're in
And
a Gamino Pond from
yeah,
here?
it's like, so if I run straight to the library bench, right when you walk in, it's a mile. So
that's actually not that far.
so if I run from
Okay.
here to there and then run back, it's 2 miles
Okay,
all
that's
day.
not horrible then.
And then if I run a little bit into the woods to like one of the reservoir spots and then run back, I can hit like 3 miles.
Mhm.
So like sometimes when I'm going through something, I'll run to that spot, meditate for a little bit to catch my breath, and then run back. And there's something that like it's gonna sound so funny, but like primal about running through the woods that just like
Yeah.
feels amazing. And like you're one getting really fresh, clean air. You're running through the woods, and it just feels so right. Like I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like I feel fast as fuck, like just running
I mean,
through
you
the
got the
woods.
reservoir next to you too. So you
Yeah,
got, like,
and
the
it's just
water view.
peaceful.
Yeah.
Like it's nice, and like yeah, you run into people here and there, but like it's not like super crowded all the time there. Like not like it was like COVID times.
Oh man,
like,
I was frequenting that place.
that place was
every
like
single day.
that place was the fucking go-to spot during COVID. I remember running around there and like everyone in the fucking town was there. Like
Yeah.
it was like a fucking like free for all
Yeah,
out there.
no one knew what to do. I mean, they were all just like bored and had so much free time on their hands.
It's just crazy, like from like that, even just thinking to like that podcast too, and like around that time period, the mindset of like where we were.
We're trying to survive.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get through.
Oh, you were talking about like if like you were nervous about like, is this gonna like, if am I gonna get parents sick from doing this
Right. 'Cause
podcast
that
and
was
like
the
shit like
biggest
that?
concern that I had. 'Cause I
Yeah.
was living at home, and I was like, if something happens to them, I'm gonna regret it for the rest of my life. You know?
It's just crazy. That was like the thought process. And then like, obviously some people obviously had that traumatic experience with COVID in their
Of course,
families,
of course.
unfortunately.
Yes.
But like for the general public, for most people, it really wasn't like that. And it's kind of
I was
weird.
considered high risk because I have asthma.
Mm.
So like my mom was so worried for me. She's like, you can't go out and do this. And I was like, nah, nothing's gonna happen to me, you know.
And then
And
here we are, we're still alive, still
but I
kicking.
don't know if it was the smartest choice, but nothing did happen.
it's just like,
you know.
it's so funny just to like picture the mindset. Like you were talking about like going back for myself to listen to my quarantine connection episodes. And like, that's something like I'm not as good at going back and listening to them now. Cause like one, I was already living the conversations. Like today I went back and listened to the conversation with me, you, and Isaac.
Yeah.
Just to like, because it had been so long. Like sometimes I've had people will come back within a year where like I know what we talked about in like a year.
We waited 3 years.
Yeah, we waited a while. So like, and like I've seen you like since obviously for football and
of
stuff,
course.
but like to sit down to have the conversation
We
and
haven't
like
done this in a while.
Yeah, and I was excited when you reached out because I'm like, one, it validates like the podcast experience that I've created that you enjoyed it enough to want to do it again, and that's like the coolest thing because I don't always hear that from people. Like I don't see that instant validation. Like, yeah, cool. I see like a couple views on YouTube or a couple views on like Apple or Spotify, but like I don't have the people saying like I really enjoyed the experience. They'll say it after the podcast, but like talking to people, talking to their family about it, like I obviously don't hear that. So like when people come back, there is some form of like validation there. That's like,
I mean, I'll tell you straight up. If I had a horrible experience on the podcast the first time, I would have never reached out.
Well,
I mean, like I felt like it was just like a comfortable experience. It was just natural. It was just like a back and forth. Obviously, we had Isaac with us, but
it really slowed us down, huh? I hope you listen to this, Isaac. You should have been here
at the airport.
Should have been here.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just a natural back and forth. And I had never done a podcast, and I was just like, because I liked your format too, and I was like, yeah, I just got to reach out. And I think that's exactly what I did. I reached out. We set it up. I don't think it took 2 months.
No.
You weren't that busy. Now you're a rock star. It takes 2 months to get on the podcast.
It's crazy. Like I never. It's like it's some months. It's like I'm like nervous about getting guests, but I'm always like at least 3 weeks out. Like I've kind of set that standard for myself because I want to plan my life around it a little bit, and like I've always been like, at least it started as a COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone gets COVID, at least they have like the 2 weeks in advance.
Right,
they can let me know if something happens and I could try to get a guest or like do something. But it's become more of like, I like knowing who's coming up and like looking at my calendar. All right, I have this episode this week, and like all that. Like I have all of April already booked out and stuff. I'm looking at May. Like it's nice.
When you get people on the podcast, I mean, I know most of the people are from CCON, but like there's some people that I don't know sometimes. Do you, like, the people that you invite on the podcast, do you know them beforehand, or is it like a mixture of like people that are brought to you versus like people that you know?
It's a mix. It's a mix. Some people will listen.
How do you go about it? Like if you've never talked to that person, have you actually been on that, like in that situation?
Yeah.
It's like your first conversation with someone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've had ones where like obviously people will listen to episodes of other guests that they know, and then we'll reach out. Or someone be like, hey, this is a good guest. You should reach out to them. I'm trying to think. I've definitely had people that like.
Because I feel like you could do it, but it's like, it makes for a very interesting dynamic because you're learning about them in real time as your listeners are like tuning into the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, most of the people who I meet through people though, like, like I don't know any of them. So it is that experience though. Like I like it that way because I get a little bit of a background check on them. Because like, obviously I don't know who I'm talking to at first. Yeah. But when it's recommended, I already know if that person's co-signed. Like if someone reaches out, hey, I listened to this person's episode. I'm friends with them. I like this episode, I want to be a guest. I go right to them. Hey, do you know this person?
Yeah.
Yep. I know this person. Are they cool? Well, yep, they're cool. Yeah. Cool. And I get them on the podcast. And like, usually when someone reaches out to be on, it's because they have something they want to say and they do something that's worth talking about. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, hell yeah. Like, come on. Like, obviously if someone wants to come on, I want to get them on. Like, so I'm trying to like balance that, but also like, not have this people who do the same thing back to back weeks and try to break it up and certain stuff. Like I had all of Sue's Garage Band. They're all in the same band, but they all have different upbringings. They all have different opinions on how the band was formed. They all have different thoughts about the band. So I have to like break it up in a way where it's not back to back to back weeks of like all of them. And
just the same, like,
you don't want the same monotonous conversation over and over again. So I got to try to like separate it enough where there's a little bit of difference and a little bit space in between. And now that I've had them all on, I pitched the idea to them. Maybe I go to Sue's Garage and do a podcast with them. And like, maybe they do some music and like, I throw that at the end of like a YouTube clip and something like that as like a teaser. Cool. So I pitched that to them. And I'm like, just let me know. And like something we could do in the future. And cause it used to be when I would do a podcast, I would go to people. So like, eventually, obviously, I kind of like got the equipment. It was like, I gotta like stay home and like do this. But it used to be I would pack up my laptop, a couple of microphones, and like go to people. Yeah, it was the first.
How early was that? Because we were 22.
I would say the first, like, 10 episodes.
Really?
No, it even got to Taylor's episode. I think Taylor was 16.
Oh,
So even up to 16.
Wow.
Pretty much until COVID.
Yeah.
I think I was like somewhere here. So I did one in my garage with Brock. One of the first episodes I did with Brock was in my garage. Because like I was like, I wanted a separate space. I didn't really like have this space figured out yet.
Yeah.
And I had to like kind of like
The garage.
figure it out. And
Yeah.
that was weird because like the birds and stuff were in the garage. And like it was a weird experience. But like I had to like find my way with this. Like obviously you came through, you're like, is that new? Is this new? Is this new? And I'm like, yeah.
I mean, relatively, it's about the same, but
Yeah, new pieces. That's it.
it's more intimate.
Yeah. It feels more like a studio versus just like we're
Someone's
sitting.
living room.
Yeah, so literally like so that part is like been a huge aspect of it and like getting more comfortable with the conversations and
Yeah.
I don't know if you've listened to like any of them prior to your episode, but like your experience on now versus back then is probably a different experience and the way that even just in experiencing me as a
Yeah.
host is probably a different experience too.
Well, I mean, again, the main thing was like the physical barrier between us. You were like all the way on the other end of the table. Me and Isaac were here, and it was, like we could still see you, we could still hear you, obviously,
Yeah.
but it was not like this,
Had that fucking Walmart cashier divider. It's,
Yep.
I don't know. It's just
COVID friendly.
have to be COVID friendly because you never know who I was inviting and like how comfortable they were. So if they see that,
Yeah.
a lot of the time they were kind of okay with it.
If I was like kind of hesitant to come, I just wouldn't have shown up.
Yeah.
Like if I had problems about like COVID and stuff, I just wouldn't show. Like the barrier wouldn't have done anything. For
No,
me,
I mean it's
you
not like
know?
COVID was just gonna like, oh, wall can't go through. Over it. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell? It's just, I was definitely catering a little bit to an audience to try to like make sure people were comfortable, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to do the podcast. That's all I cared about doing. I didn't care if there was a wall between it. Just to have the conversation and make the content was like the overall point of it. I was curious about with the whole Chicago experience and leaving that job. Did they ever want you to come back
Yes.
to Chicago? And was that part of the reason you
Yes.
said no? All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was wondering.
So they wanted me to come back. Oh man, think about this. Like early 2021. Well, they didn't come right out and say it, which kind of pissed me off. They like were kind of hinting at it, like, oh, like everyone's back. You should think about joining us for Pizza Fridays. I'm like, I'm in Massachusetts. I'm not coming to Chicago for Pizza Fridays. And I just got to a point where like 80% of the workforce, or 80%, I think about 85%, like they were there in the office because it was it was a startup. It was a local company. And I just didn't feel like I wanted to like continue being like one of the only remote people and like miss out on all the fun there, because I did have thoughts about going back there, and I was like, I have my friends, my family, obviously it'd be very expensive to go back there. And I found another company that made me an offer, and I was like, all right, see you later. I mean, I did ask them to match it. They like increased their offer, but they didn't match it. So I was like, all right, I'm out.
And the new job is remote,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
So did that play a factor too? Were you looking for remote at the time?
Well, I wanted something where at least I could have the option to be remote.
Like a hybrid, basically?
Yeah, like a hybrid. And then they were like, yeah, we don't need you in the office like ever. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like just like the only time you're going to have to travel is like when you're going on site, when meeting like clients and stuff. So I was like, okay, like I like traveling. I don't want to have to go to the office just because I have to be in the office just to like show face. And
that's relatable.
Did I tell you? Wait, oh, you don't know about this, do you? Do you know what my background was before all of this?
In terms of
like what I was doing before, like what I was studying.
Before that, no. I
was doing investment banking. Did I tell you that?
I don't think we talked about that on the last podcast.
So we'll get into that. So my degree is in finance. I minored in comp sci, but I got my degree in finance. And so I was in New York for maybe like 6 to 8 months doing this internship with Goldman Sachs, which if people don't know, Goldman Sachs is like one of the leading financial institutions in the world. It was brutal. It was so bad. I was working as an intern like 85 to 90 hours a week. I just like busting my ass, like doing PowerPoints and shit. Like
hell fucking
like hell. Oh my God. It got to a point where, oh my God, there was one time I was there like 7 o'clock on a Friday And I couldn't leave because like the analyst there hadn't left yet. That was the only reason I was still there, because they didn't leave, and they didn't leave until like 10. So I didn't leave until like 10:15. And I was like, this is so bad. Like I could have just stuck it out, made a really big amount of money, and then like I would have been fine, I guess, in 10 years, but I would have been so burnt out, and I wouldn't have been able to like do anything fun on the side. And I was like, yeah, this is not what I want to do. And so I pivoted to the role, or I guess kind of the role that I have right now, which is part software engineering, like part financial consulting. So it's this product called Workday, and it is basically like, and it's an ERP, so it's an enterprise resource planning software, and it has financial and HR planning. And so I'm on the financial side. And so I was like, okay, that kind of like mirror, or like that kind of bridges the gap between like the two things that I like doing. Like I like the technical side, I like the consulting side. Um, and it makes about the same money as like what my previous job was. So like I was like, so I get work-life balance and about the same amount of compensation. Easy. Sign me up. The one kind of unexpected thing was that I moved to Chicago. That was kind of like, that was on a whim, basically. I just fell in love with this company, and I was like, I really wanted to do remote work for them. And they were like, no, we need you in the office because everyone else is in there. I was like, okay, fine, I'll go to Chicago. And then, so that's why like the pandemic, I mean, obviously it was horrible, but I was only in Chicago for 3 months because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I remember. I think you started. I listened back, and it was like January when you started
Yeah,
in
I started
2020.
in, so I graduated school December 19, started like right away, January 20, which I would not recommend to anyone that's in college still. Don't do that, because yeah, I graduated like December 24th, and I started January 9th, and I had like literally no time in between to just enjoy myself, you know? Like people, I hear of stories of people going on like road trips, and I was like, yeah, I didn't do any of that. I had like a New Year's Eve party, and that was it. And then I was out the door. So for anyone that's still in college, definitely take some time off if you can, in between like getting your degree and starting your first job. But I dove kind of head first, and I started in January, ended in, man, I still remember it. Do you remember Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm at my apartment in Chicago. I'm watching it live. Rudy Gobert is going over like coughing on all the mics and shit.
I remember that interview
And I
too.
get a message from my boss that says, "All right, we're gonna be out for the next month. You guys can work remotely." And I'm thinking to myself, like, what the heck is going on? And I turn on ESPN. Gobert's doing his thing. All of the tournaments, like for college, I remember this vividly because it was like the conference basketball tournaments right before March Madness, right?
Mhm.
To like get the bid into the tournament. All the tournaments were getting canceled. And I was like, what is going on? And then I get that message. Like 5 hours later, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna book a flight home because my birthday is in March. I'm like, I'm just gonna go there. And St. Patty's Day. It was right before St. Patty's Day. I was like, yeah, I'll just go hang out with my friends for St. Patty's Day. I get home, I hang out with my friends for like one night, everything gets shut down. Like in a blink, everything's gone. And so, okay, I'm thinking like, all right, I got like a month off, like a month vacation. Month turns into 2 months. 2 months turns into 3 months. And then they're just like, yeah, we're gonna be remote for the rest of the year. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm paying so much in rent in Chicago right now. I'm not in Chicago. I can't do anything in Chicago. I might as well just come back home. And so my dad and I, we took a ride to Chicago, packed up all the stuff, 16-hour ride. We got all the stuff, packed it up, came back to Seekonk. The rest is history. Now I'm still here. So
So in hindsight, though, like obviously we're not saying COVID was great, but like it allowed you to kind of come home and kind of get back into the place where like I want to be here, not there.
yeah, and I think emotionally, I don't know if I was completely ready for Chicago. Because it was like the first time I had been that far. I was in New York for a while, but you can take a train,
Yeah,
right? Chicago's 16 hours away. So in a way, like I kind of wonder, like in an alternate universe, how that would have played out. Maybe I would have like stayed in Chicago. But like that summer of 2020, and you could probably relate to it, was almost like it was like high school all over again. You're just hanging out with all your high school buddies, you're just playing sports, just hanging around. Like it was just great. I don't know.
I feel the same way. I was like, I was kayaking
Yeah.
every weekend.
Yeah.
Like I was living life to like it was, and I was working remote. Like I just like didn't feel like I was working. Like I was just living fucking life, and it really felt like that. And I have the same thoughts too. Like when I left Georgia, I'm so glad that I left at the time that I did, because if I stayed there, I would have been in Georgia when COVID happened, and that entire company furloughed all their employees. So like
Yeah.
I left at like the best possible
So you
time.
switched companies when you came back here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna name drop my
Yeah.
company,
I'm not either.
but when I left that, I had like no plan, and like that's how like and I've talked about this before, but like that experience being in the toxic work environment in Georgia, quitting the job, like no 2 week notice, just quit, was like I'm
Yeah.
done, and in that like I don't know what I'm doing, like spin, that's how I created the podcast.
Yep.
And then when I moved back, like just I was like, I'm just gonna figure it out. And then I ended up getting a job that like I didn't think that I would ever have gotten. Like most of my jobs are always through like people that I knew or recommendations and stuff like that. But this was just pure off resume. Like
Really?
and like that was like the coolest thing was like
Through LinkedIn.
yeah,
Yeah.
through LinkedIn
Yeah.
and just like
Huh.
filled it out, and they just were impressed with like the way that I traveled and been on my own. And luckily I was in there like December like 2019, and like rest is history. And then I worked mostly from home COVID, and like I was 3
So
months
you're still
there.
with the same company
Yeah.
from like 29. Okay.
And I pretty much enjoyed the experience that I've had with them. It's
Yeah.
been, I mean, at the end of the day, it's corporate life. So, I mean, you can only,
Yeah.
you can only enjoy it so much, but like the whole conversation around remote work versus in office work has been like a huge sticking point for me, because like this culture is like stuck in like this old mindset of like you need to be in office, and like you kind of even experienced that too with the Chicago stuff. I just don't understand, like I do, because I could look at stuff from a full perspective,
Yeah.
but it's just like trying to get back to the way things were when things are just different now. It's weird.
The only thing is our experiences are a little different, because when I was with that startup, everyone was like in their 20s. So it was kind of cool being in the office. Like we'd get, I mean, not cool. Fridays were cool, but like the rest of the times, at least I was with like people that, were like similar in terms of experience and stuff like that. So I know you work with people that are not really our age, so can't really bounce off like
Damn boomers.
Yeah.
I say I don't care. It's just like people that don't relate to what you're going through don't relate to your experiences, and you don't relate to theirs. Like, so it's hard to have conversations in that work environment. Yeah, you can be polite, you can be nice to people, but it's just.
But on the contrary, because everyone was so young, it was a very like big like hustle mindset. Like you're young, just push through it. Doesn't matter like how you get it done, just get it done. And that also became a little like stressful at times. Whereas like the company that I work for now is, I mean, yeah, there's like young people, but it's like more of a mix of like young professionals and like older people and managers and stuff like that. So it definitely has a balance. I mean, we had this thing on Fridays at that startup. It was like we'd go to the same bar every Friday. It would be open bar. Our CEO would be getting like hammered with us. I was like, I love this. But at the same time, like there's drawbacks as well with like that type of culture, because there's more expectations on like what you actually do. So it's a push and pull there.
Yeah, when you're that deep involved into a company where you're a huge, that's the thing with smaller companies versus larger companies. It's like you're more involved and like you're more there with it, and more is expected of you.
Yeah.
Versus when you're kind of like a spoke on a wheel at a very large corporation, like kind of just fit in.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like, but that also has this problem where you can become dispensable, and especially at a time like now where people are losing jobs left and right.
Yeah,
like
a lot of
I saw it in
layoffs.
my own company too. Like,
Yeah, I've seen it with
in.
a lot of my friends. Yeah,
yeah, they literally
it's
just.
rough.
I felt bad for the dude. Like, he loved like healthy snack day, so like he planned a healthy snack day.
What's healthy snack day?
Like
Bring carrots and stuff.
Carrots, apples, strawberries, like some crackers, like pretzels, like somewhat healthy, like a nice, like not like cakes and brownies and cupcakes, like, but he planned it that day. And then I saw he like took his backpack and left like randomly at like 10:30.
Oh, no.
And I was like, that's weird. He never leaves early. And then we got all pulled aside and like, yeah, we had to let him go because of this and that. And I was like, and then someone's like, today was his healthy snack day.
No.
And like, I was just like, damn, like that is so
I thought
unfortunate.
you were gonna say it was his birthday.
No, that's what I thought too at first. I was like, oh my God. But like, nah, like it was just like a day that he planned. And like, this is the second company that I've worked for that I've watched let go of someone. And like, I think it's important to see that though, because like, it just shows, it's a reminder that you're kind of replaceable. And like, it's like, you can't take
Nothing's
work as
permanent.
exactly.
It's just, you can't take it for granted. And if you slack off, I mean, you can take that risk, but there's a chance that your company doesn't do well, and then they look at you and they're like, well, we don't really need him or her,
Yeah. And I think I was reading in Bloomberg, a lot of the people that were losing jobs were like middle management too. And that's kind of the position
Well,
that
the
we're
problem
filling.
is like during like the last couple of years, like companies have just been over hiring, and so now they're just like reducing the workforce to what it should have been in the past. But at the same time, that's still going to impact like those people that were hired. It still sucks for them because now they got to find something else. But companies are basically just reverting back to like what it should have been in the first place, because there was such a big hiring, especially in tech. Like there was just such a big hiring boom, and then they realized like now like, oh, interest rates are rising. We gotta like scale back now, and so we're going back to like what it should have been.
Yeah, and that's something that like it sucks because right now is such a like crazy time in the economy with interest rates and housing market, and just like if you're into crypto, that's like that one fucking whacked me. Like just so many different things that are happening right now that it's like it's tough to manage, like especially our ages where we're starting to hit that period of our life where we want to take that next step in life.
I mean,
And
you're looking for a house, right?
yeah, and
So
it's
am
like
I. So it's
like I'm in that position where
been looking for a house for the last like 18 months now.
yes, pretty much same. It's like I don't want to rent if I don't have to.
Because we're in similar situations. Like we have a place to fall back on, right? That we can kind of wait it out. We don't have to force it and buy a house just because we have to buy a house, right? So that's why like I've been a lot more patient maybe than I should be. But it's like at the end of the day, I have a place that I can go to, and if I'm not comfortable spending $150,000 over what it should be and paying 7% on mortgage rates, like I'm okay with that. Like I'm not gonna like lose sleep because I don't have a house. It would be really nice to have a house. I mean, sometimes I think about this from like the social part of me, but like I'm just like I just want a place where I can just like have people over and throw parties. Like, but that's not a good reason to buy a house. You have to like put that aside and be like, hey, think of this like pragmatically. Like just wait it out. It will get better. So that's why like I feel like we're very similar in that regard, because we don't like I do make impulsive decisions, but not like I wouldn't do it on a magnitude of this level. There's like a bunch of different like barriers that I have to get through to get to that point. So
Yeah, I'm kind of setting myself like within the next year or so, if I don't get a house, then I'm gonna be more open to kind of because I'm ready to just have my own space. Like I love being able to be at home. I always appreciate my family for allowing me, especially to move back when all the stuff happened with Georgia situation. But if I don't get a house, I might just bite the bullet and get an apartment, just like to have the own space, to get back on my grind in that way. And because I've heard multiple sources through TikTok, through Twitter, through Instagram about the housing, and like this might be a couple more years before things really start to settle, like especially interest rates. That's not coming down anytime soon,
I mean,
unfortunately.
you can refinance, but
it's just like
it's gonna be brutal now.
It's gonna be tough, and like you have to kind of eat dick basically for fucking a 7% for like what 2 years if you get a house this like within this summer, which is like I'm looking for, but I get to be a little bit more picky with my situation. And like I'm looking at New Hampshire so I can get a little more bang for my buck up there, but I'm also thinking
you do New Hampshire and you're remote, no income tax.
Yeah, that's one thing. But also I think about the podcast, and that would change the dynamic completely and who I get as guests, how I do it. And that's something I'm thinking about, and seeing where things are and where houses are around here and what's available. And it's just like, it's tough because the houses around here just aren't really like that for the prices, at least.
No,
it's just
I
like,
look at Zillow and I'm like, that house is going for $600K.
It's like, and I get it. Some of it, just like the locations for the school systems and the healthcare in Massachusetts, Rhode Island area is pretty damn good. And I mean, I understand why. It just,
It sucks for us.
Yeah.
It sucks for buyers.
Yeah, especially young buyers. Like we want to do
First
this.
time home buyers are just like fucked.
Pretty much.
You know?
Like it's like it just sucks, and like I'm trying to like prepare myself for that reality that I probably won't buy a house this summer, and like that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
And I think enough people, because I've seen people buy houses in the past couple years, and I'm like, that's a tough buy because like you're kind of overpaying and like
you're taking a risk. You're betting that in 10, 15 years, if you're going to stick it out that long, that the price value will increase, which it probably will. But you're taking a big risk now because you don't know that for sure. You know?
Yeah, my
and you
thing,
don't know how long you're going to stick it. Like I don't know.
That's
I don't know
be a
how
thing.
long
Is
I'm
like,
going to stick it out here.
I don't want to make this the one and only house that I ever buy.
Because if I do that, I'm stuck to this area.
Yes.
I'm committed for the long term.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel.
I don't want to do that at all.
That's exactly how I feel because I'm like, I don't know where I want to establish roots. I know that I'm getting ready to establish roots, but I don't know where I want to plant that yet. Like I have everything lined up. I've been doing the right things.
And nothing against this area. This area is great.
No.
But I don't know if I want to stay here.
Yeah.
You know?
That's exactly how I feel. Like I want to be in New England. I just don't know where in New England yet.
Okay.
So like it's like trying to figure it out, like whether that is New Hampshire or whether that is around this area locally and then buying like another property in New Hampshire and doing that. So like that's something I'm thinking about that's probably more realistic, but it just sucks because like I can get a better house now in New Hampshire versus here. And I'm like, fuck. Like it's just a weird time to be looking for homes and buying things in this economy. It's just really tough. And I feel bad for people our age, people coming up that have to kind of like deal with the repercussions of in the decisions that people way older than us have made, which is like ridiculous. We're not going to go down that conversation, but it's just like, man, I don't know. It's frustrating as like to want to be a home buyer, to want to contribute to the economy, to want to have an asset under my name,
and to be doing a lot of the same things that like the previous generation did, if not more. Right. And they were able to like afford houses.
It's like you were told to do X, Y, and Z. You do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, yeah, there's a whole nother alphabet behind that now. So
it's a whole nother language.
It's like you got to just completely learn this language to then maybe get a house. And then if you get that house, good chance it's a shack. Like, so it's just like
it's a shack and you're paying $500K for it. So.
Dude, I'm just so it's what this past several years has been really teaching me is patience and how to be patient and being more comfortable with my own path. Because I think a big thing is comparison. Like comparison and patience have been two very big learning points for me. And trying to like implement that in my own life to like not try to fall down the comparison. We're going to do it naturally as humans anyways, but like to kind of be patient with this path, especially I was talking about like my podcast and like where I see this podcast and being more comfortable with this podcast and what it could be and what it is.
Yep.
And like when I started, it was like my vision. I was like, yeah, I'll get 1,000 followers on the Instagram in 1 year. Not even at 1,000 now. Like
that doesn't matter.
No,
though,
exactly.
Right? Like what matters is that you're having fun with it and you're having a platform for your listeners to like showcase their stories to other people that listen to this podcast. That's it. That's really all it is. I mean, it'd be cool if you went viral. Like we talked about that. It'd be really cool, but that shouldn't be the focus of why you're doing it. The focus should be for your sanity, for your enjoyment, and then for your listeners. That's it.
Yeah, and that's been the goal is to, and that and like the listeners and the family, like your friends, like your family, like that's who it's for. And like to cement like I always say it's like a screenshot of time. We're taking a real life conversation, screenshotting it and putting it online for forever, basically, as long as the internet exists. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Things get a little dicey now, but like that's like what I think about and like that I want to like, especially once I lost my grandfather, he was on episode 2, and having that conversation, I'm like, obviously knock on wood, like God forbid anyone else ever happens to pass away that's been a guest on the podcast, but like to been able to host so many different people, to host so many different life stories, to host so many different conversations. I don't take that for granted and I don't take that very lightly because it's a responsibility, and like that responsibility of this, like this is episode 137.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility for every conversation that I've ever had to keep going.
Mhm.
And that's like the motivation to never stop with this is like keep going until the wheels fall off. And like even if the wheels fall off, repair them and keep going. So it's like trying to figure out a way to always make this something has been the motivation.
And I'm sure you've had points where, you know, you've thought about like, oh, do I still want to keep doing this? And like everyone has like hesitation and doubt. Like I've had that same thing with like teaching. There's like days where like, oh, I'm just like there's like a few students in my class like that just drive me nuts. I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just have to remember like I'm doing this because it's fun for me. It's almost like a therapy for me in a way now. And you just have to like just remind yourself sometimes of that. And so like I don't know if you view this as a therapy, but I view teaching as like an actual therapy to me because like it's almost like soothing in a way, like being able to kind of explain things to kids about math that they didn't think about before. I have like a lot of students that just like by definition just like hate math because like I don't even know, like it's probably someone like told them in class like, oh, math is icky or something like that. Like kids are so impressionable. And so like I have like a responsibility to like do my best to make sure that they enjoy math or at least do my best to make sure that they can do it. And so like I feel like for you, like this podcast is kind of like that, right? Where it's like it's a break from reality, it's a break from work, right? And it's a place where not only you get to kind of connect on your own life, but you also get to hear stories of other people, right? So I think in that sense, it's pretty cool that you've been able to do this for that long. But I know it hasn't been easy because I know from my experience in teaching, it hasn't been easy, like doing it the whole time. So
Yeah, it's tough because there's days like weeks where you're just like, damn, I don't want to do this. Or like you go on vacation.
Or you like
it's
listen
hard
back to
get
like a podcast and you're like, okay, maybe this isn't like the best content. Like I could have done better. Like sometimes like when I'm teaching, it's like, oh, I could have taught better. Like that class is kind of trash. But you just keep going. You just keep grinding because it's something that you're passionate about. That's ultimately what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, like you're gonna have bad podcasts, you're gonna have bad days teaching. Like
Yeah.
it just comes with the craft of doing something you truly enjoy.
Yeah,
And like
exactly.
and I always say to people, it's just find something, man. Like don't just be one of those people that and if you're one of those people that enjoys just working and then going out and just living your life and doing stuff, drinking, partying,
Yeah,
like you're just
let's get into that. I mean, I was one of those people. I think it was because of just how much time I missed in the pandemic, just going out and drinking and stuff. Like I'd say from like 21 to 22, it was just like every Friday or Saturday going out to a bar and just like drinking with friends. And then I got to a point where it was just like I just realized I don't need that to like have fun anymore. Like yes, it doesn't make it more enjoyable. Sure, but like I don't need it. And I'm not talking about like White Claws. You can see the White Claw on the table here, but I'm talking
not
about like
sponsored. Not sponsored.
we're talking about like hard stuff. And I was like, I don't need to keep doing this. And also like we were talking about football earlier, right? And basketball and recovery. Alcohol sucks for recovering from injuries. Like it takes twice as long for me to recover if I'm like drinking heavily in that period. And I was like, why am I doing it? Like it got to the point like where like on weekdays I was drinking and I was like, I gotta cut this shit out. Like, I don't know. Cause like I would work, I would teach, and then I would do that. And I was like, no, I'm just going to use teaching as like the coping mechanism after work. Like no more drinking on weekdays at least. So, um, it's just, alcohol is cool and all, but I think as you get older, you realize that it has more detrimental effects to you.
Yeah, your body reminds you that too.
As you get older and your bones get more brittle, it's like,
Hangovers become more than one day. Like it's just like
yeah.
and that was I really like cut that out like back in 20 like really 2019, yeah, beginning of 2019 was when I made the conscious decision where I went sober for like 6-7 months and
Did
like
you
didn't
really?
didn't
Oh.
do it at all. And like that experience really changed the way I look at my body and the way I look at alcohol. Like now, like it's rare that I even drink if I drink at all. Like if I go out to eat, sometimes I'll get like
It's
a
more
beer
like a
and water.
social thing for you now, right?
If at
that-
all.
if that
Like even like
yeah.
because like going out is like I don't really. This is my way to socialize with people. Like like I just tell people, unfortunately, like if you want to like connect with me, come do a podcast. Like that's the way I connect because it's not only just a podcast that we talk. We talk almost for like an hour before we even started recording. like I hang out with people when I do
Yeah.
this. Like it's not just come and record content, but like this is I put a lot of time and effort into this where I don't have time outside of this to just go out and party because then
Yeah.
it's gonna like again the hangovers and all that stuff and like I don't even want to deal with any of
Diminish
that
the quality
shit.
of the product.
Yeah, like it just takes
Yeah.
away and if you care about your health, like you're not gonna drink every weekend. You're not gonna drink during the weekdays either. Like it's not beneficial towards long term health.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think part of that, I mean, I know this podcast is about mental health. I think that I was using that as like a coping mechanism just to like get through the days and stuff like that. And so like swimming has been a good outlet, but even before that, like reading has been like really good, just like picking up a novel and just reading after work. And then meditation has been kind of the big thing, honestly, for me. So my mom, she's not a yoga instructor or anything like that, but she's like big into like yoga and meditation. So I got into that like last year-ish. I didn't really take it seriously until like December. Then I was like, oh, like I should actually take this seriously and see where it goes. And it's just great. Like you don't have to do all of like the poses and everything. It's more about the breathing for me. It's always been about the breathing because again, my lungs are weak from asthma. And it's just about just clearing your mind. And that's like why I like swimming too, because I go into the pool, just like a complete reset, you know? And so you don't need you don't need alcohol to like do that. Like, yeah, you can drink if you want on a Friday because, it's Friday, but you don't need alcohol to like, make you feel better. And that's like what I had to like learn kind of harder than what I wanted it to be. But yeah, like it's like a combination of like the emotional side, the physical side, where you realize like I'm not in college anymore. I don't need to be doing this stuff anymore.
Yeah, there's
So,
also a spiritual side to it too. It kind
yeah.
of blocks you from hitting that kind of neck. I hate saying it like this, but that next level of spirituality within yourself and finding out who you are and what you really
Yeah.
like that's a blocker. Like whether people want to acknowledge it or not, alcohol is literally a toxin. Like you're
It
putting. That's
is.
why your body goes through the hangover process because it's trying to get it out of your body, and like that's why you get drunk because it's not supposed to be in your body. So
Right,
it's like
right.
that whole process. Like once I kind of really like, and the whole phrase alcohol, I'm pretty sure it derives from a Arabic word of what's the fucking word? Oh my god, I used to like quote this because I was so like anti-alcohol for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I forget. It's like not devil, but it's like something like very negative, like souls like taking or something like that.
Hmm.
I'll have to look it up after the
Yeah,
fact.
yeah, yeah.
But
Let me know what it is.
um, it's just not beneficial. And I was doing the same thing. Once you realize that the alcohol is becoming a coping mechanism,
You gotta
you're
cut
in
that shit
trouble.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah,
get that done.
yeah. You
And
gotta
like,
cut that. And I think that was like I think it was like tail end of the pandemic. I was just losing my mind, because I just wasn't seeing anyone. So I was like, yeah, I'll just keep doing this. And nah, it's not sustainable. A and B, like if you are able to sustain it anyway, it's gonna have damaging effects to you.
very damaging.
Very
And
damaging.
it's just not worth the same thing with people who smoke. Like I
Yeah,
definitely
and
found myself in the pattern with that as well with alcohol. It's like you combine those two and it's like it becomes a crutch
and
and
like
that's
I
not
have
healthy.
like family history of like addiction too, and it's like you combine that, and it's like not immediate, but like relatives, and it's like you combine that, it's like it's
It was
not
the
a
same thing for
great.
me too. Like
Really,
yeah,
was
in the
it?
family and like being willing to admit that like yeah, I could see that addiction starting to form. Like I could see why
Yep.
people have the addiction and why people use the addiction to get involved with the alcohol and stuff like that. And it's just unfortunate that people get sucked into
Yeah.
that space and so many people get stuck and stay there.
Because I mean, like on the mainstream media, it's like everyone portrays like drinking as like this cool thing. Like you got to get blackout drunk on a Friday night or you're not living. Like I love the boys of 90, not the boys of 98. What is it? What is it? I can't think of it right now. The Boys of 98 is one of them. They're like an offshoot of Nelk that I like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know Nelk. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
like
know
we
Nelk.
we can go to Nelk. It's like you watch those videos and it's like they're partying every night and they're making it look like, oh, it's like so cool. But I bet like when they're not shooting, they're not like always all that, Like Kyle is definitely not like always that upbeat and everything. Like he's definitely like down on a bed, like just like, oh, my head hurts. Like I can't like feel my body right now. So I think once you understand that, and maybe like everyone has to kind of go through that. I think once you understand that, you can kind of be at peace with like your decisions in terms of like how much you want to drink. Like if you want to drink a couple White Claws on a Friday night, go for it. But you don't have to get drunk to have fun.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it too. Is like when I and like in that experience too, kind of relate to that is like when I was in Texas and like
Mhm.
I literally stopped drinking and like I stopped hanging out with a lot of people because all they did was just drink and like I was like that's what also contributed to like kind of like a little bit of a depressive state, was like being by myself, accepting like you don't need the alcohol to have fun, and I always like shout out like Fortnite and gaming because it allowed me to have that outlet to also play with my brothers who were living in different places at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
to connect with them and keep me away from drinking. Because if I didn't have that, I would have just been alone with my thoughts and like
That's a very dangerous
and that's
place.
it is, and like
Yeah.
that place, being overweight, having the alcohol problems, and being in a depressive state before making that change was not a great place to be, and I didn't like that headspace. So to make that change in the way I look at alcohol now, like I like in the summer I'll drink more and stuff like that, but like
Yeah.
I really don't go after it like that, and I don't need it because I also know I'm very conscious of calories, at least to like
There's the health side of it.
yeah,
too.
there's a whole
Yeah.
nother can of worms with that conversation with alcohol that not enough people are willing to like
Which is
open
like
up.
why I like the seltzers, because they're at least
I'm a big seltzer guy, so
somewhat
yeah.
healthy-ish. You know, it's still alcohol, but
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't kill you.
Yeah. It's not heavy like beer.
You're right.
Like, and
Just
it's
goes
not
down
as
easy.
like
Yeah.
dangerous as doing straight vodka shots or tequila shots. Like, obviously, those can be, in terms of calories, a little bit better because it's just pure.
Have you heard of those Borgs that people have been making?
I've seen the like
It's like
videos
the-
on like social media about
it's
it.
like people, like college kids are taking like the water gallons and they're just
Yeah, yeah.
mixing Kool-Aid and vodka and all
Jesus
kinds of stuff. And they're drinking the whole. I went to the St. Patty's Day parade in Boston. I saw a couple of Borgs. I was like, "What are you doing?" And they got confiscated. Right, like the cops were looking straight for those two. It's funny. Like they came straight after this girl who had the Borg in her hand. I'm like, "What are you doing? Like at least hide that." Like she had it. Like
It's kind of like a jungle
openly.
juice thing.
Yeah, it's like a
almost.
jungle juice.
It's so crazy. It's like
Maybe
I'm just getting
why?
older. I'm
Maybe
just
we're
like
both just getting old. Yeah,
it's just like damn. Like
as I drift farther and farther away from college,
it's like it's just the mindset changes. Like you said, the meditation, the reading, the getting into back, like playing the sports, being active, like that takes more priority, and like it should, because health is wealth. Honestly, I know it's corny and it's cliche, but if you care about your physical health, that translates to your mental health. And if your mental health's in a good state, you're going to be in a really good state to like continue making progress in your life.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, I took from January up until like my birthday this last weekend. Like late January. That was about a month and a half. Like I just wanted to see like how my body would recover after not drinking. And it was like everything was faster. Like I just felt so much better, like health, not even like looking at like mentally or spirit, or just like health wise. It felt so like I lost 15 pounds by just not drinking. Like if that's not a, good enough reason to do it, like I can't think of another reason. But yeah, it's just not great. If you can't control it.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just for the people that do want to drink, keep it a
yeah,
weekend
like
thing.
I have
Just
nothing.
keep it
I
a
have nothing
weekend thing.
against. I have nothing against that because I was one of those people too. So like, it'd be
When you're younger, you
it'd be
could burn it
hypocritical
off
for me
quicker too. It's like there's
Yeah.
like that whole aspect with the
Yeah, your
metabolism and
yeah.
shit. Like being younger, being more willing to bounce back. Like there is that aspect to it, but it's still like, man, if you want to like love yourself to the fullest extent, like just limit the use of that and like don't use it every weekend. Like if you're going to, just like be smart with it. Like
that's what I'd say. Like just don't hurt other people. And I guess everyone has their own journey to kind of go through.
yeah, most do.
So maybe
Some don't. Some don't. Some just stay on that path. And like that was the whole point of like even we hopped on this conversation was like just making sure that you do something that brings you joy. Like find that one thing and like really harp on that. You don't got to be a social media content creator like me. You don't got to do podcasts. You don't got to do YouTube. You don't got to do TikTok.
I gotta teach.
Just find your thing. And like the only way to do it is you got to try. We are getting towards like the back end of the podcast. I know you got a place to be after this, so I want to start wrapping
Jared,
this
I can
up.
talk to you all night.
I know you could. And I got to do what's best for you. So
I appreciate it.
I want to give you the kind of final thoughts or final wrap up. If there's anything that you want to say or leave the listeners with, I'll let you kind of take the floor with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a great conversation so far. I mean, I guess the final kind of closing moment is, just finding something that makes you truly happy, that you're passionate about. And if you can monetize that, great. If you can't, that's also fine, because at the end of the day, if it provides you a break from reality, if it provides you kind of a therapy from what you're doing that gives you stress, then you have to pursue it. And so I think we've talked a lot about that in terms of me teaching and Jared doing the podcast. and us also just taking care of our bodies in terms of, cutting back from drinking from our old days in college. I think if you can combine finding your passion and cutting out, toxic or, detrimental things to your body, you're going to be all right, even if things look chaotic. So I know we touched upon a lot of things, but I think that would be my closing moment there.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap up this podcast. And like, I love bringing people back because it's not so much about talking about your upbringing, your life story this time. It's like you've already been on, you've established that. So now it can be more of the conversation.
Like we didn't even talk about that. I have another, we could talk about that for another 2 hours.
And like, that's the cool part about it's a new challenge for me to also navigate the conversation because I'm off like my typical script with people because like I have a typical like layout for the podcast to make sure it goes smoothly. But this is just a new way, and I always just appreciate anyone that wants to come back on the podcast and talk with me, man.
Always down, dude.
Appreciate it, and maybe next time we get Isaac back on the podcast.
Yeah, maybe we get Isaac one day.
Maybe one day, but
one day.
Ankit, appreciate you for coming on the podcast, man. Like, it's been a fucking pleasure, dude. And for you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. You can check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. It's on YouTube. You can search the Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll. If you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection, text, snap, whatever you want to do. But until next time, guys, peace.